I do think we have to step back and say, look, ITC, investment tax credits, production tax credits, they've been around for 32 years. Second, there's been a tremendous amount of investment related to the Inflation Reduction Act. And 85% of that investment has gone into Republican districts. Today, there are 8 million people working directly or indirectly in renewables in the U.S. So, a total dismantling is highly unlikely in any scenario. Whether there's some changes around the margin, sure.
Regarding President Trump, in fact, I have many times the question we need to acknowledge, difficult to answer, of course, but we need to acknowledge one thing, is that when we decided to invest $150 million in Charleston to upgrade our capacity to turn it subsea for offshore wind farm connection, it was under Donald Trump presidency. And what we've seen as well is that under President Trump mandate, we've seen a positive acceleration of all the permit on everything which is regards to administrative lease for offshore wind farm development. So there is the speech, but there is as well the reality that the state are the owner of the project and are still willing to invest massively in the coming years anyway. So I don't see a slowdown with all the commitment that New York State took recently, New Jersey, Massachusetts, if Donald Trump is winning in coming months.
Of course, you're going to get some differences in views, but I would say the majority is a shared view that solar is bipartisan, that from a manufacturing and jobs perspective, where the projects are going, where the manufacturing is taking place, is predominantly or majority in the so-called red states, Republican-controlled states. And so it actually benefits both parties. We've as a company have done well in all administrations. We did well in the Obama administration, the Trump administration previously. So there's a fundamental belief, because it's reality, that solar is the lowest cost form of energy on the planet, and that's going to be the driver. In addition to it being clean power, which if you look at the demand that's increasing, the electric demand that's increasing in the U.S., it's being driven very much by server farms that are supporting AI, data centers, electric vehicles. And so it's part of the electric and clean power revolution that's taking place in the United States, which is needed and is a fundamental premise and underpinning for the Inflation Reduction Act. And so Dan mentioned that tax credits, and particularly the 30% ITC, is the fundamental pillar of the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, and tax credits historically have not been repealed. In fact, that would be unprecedented. So the vast majority from the customer perspective, they're continuing to develop their pipelines. They're continuing to invest millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. You're seeing more money actually going into development and power plant ownership. And so, as we mentioned before, the demand for our products is still very healthy in the U.S., even with the election upcoming.
Firstly, with the November election fast approaching, the solar industry is again facing an uncertain policy environment. The impact of this uncertainty became more apparent as the second quarter progressed. We have observed increasing constraints on access to capital, both for early-stage solar technology companies seeking to finance the next stage of their growth, as well as for the established companies looking to build domestic manufacturing capacity, as financing parties wait to make investment decisions until they have a clearer view of the policy picture. This uncertainty has also impacted developers evaluating risk and returns within project pro formas, and which comes at a time when, as mentioned earlier, some oil and gas and power and utility developers are contemplating the pivot from renewables to prioritizing fossil projects. The potential for Republican control of the presidency and both houses of Congress has given rise to concern over the prospect of a legislative reconciliation process or use of the Congressional Review Act adversely impacting the Inflation Reduction Act legislation or its related regulations. A change in the executive administration alone, regardless of the results of the Senate and the House elections, has raised similar concerns of the potential use of executive orders to block or delay implementation of IRA-related guidance and the administration of both published and unfinalized regulations. While we cannot predict the outcome of the November election or what a Republican sweep would mean for renewable energy industry and trade policies, We can help inform policymakers across the political spectrum of the significant economic and strategic benefits of promoting and securing a robust domestic solar energy manufacturing base, and how policies such as 45X of the IRA significantly contribute to the economic life of our nation's communities, particularly those located in traditionally red states. According to an economic analysis commissioned by First Solar and conducted by the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, our investments are already delivering tangible value by creating jobs and raising wages for American workers. Our existing facilities, combined with our expansions in Ohio and new facilities in Alabama and Louisiana, are expected to see us support over 30,000 direct, indirect, and induced American jobs by 2026 and $2.8 billion annually in labor income. Our growth trajectory and longstanding commitment to investing in local supply chains is estimated to support 7.3 jobs nationally for every First Solar job created, and is expected to add over $10 billion annually to the country's economic output by 2026.